Virginia International Race. This weekend, Virginia International Raceway and the Sports Car Club of America combined to form a mecca for lovers of sports car racing. Almost 500 drivers in 20 classes will do battle in a race for the gold. Since 1964, SCCA has been crowning national champs at its annual runoffs, the peak of the Summit Racing Equipment road racing program. For the second straight year, welcome to the track that Paul Newman once called Heaven on Earth for the historic 60th annual SCCA runoffs. Welcome to beautiful Virginia International Raceway. A little bit of an overcast sky, but there's no precipitation in the offering. And we're getting ready to go racing for GT-2, one of the most anticipated races of the weekend because one of the perennial front runners is not in the field this weekend. I'm John Phippen. I'm sitting alongside Tom O'Gorman. And the third member of our broadcast team is down trackside, and he's going to give us the up front action as what's going on down on the grid for these drivers, as we've got 16 drivers about to take the green flag for this 15-minute or 15-lap, or 40-minute race, whichever comes first. So this is one of the most anticipated races of the weekend. It's been tightly contested for the past couple of years. In fact, last year, the driver who came across the line to take the checkered flag actually was issued a penalty and dropped back a couple spots. But it sounds like Hayward Wagner is finally ready for us. Hayward, how's it going down there?
Well, John, I think these guys would love to get this race over in 15 minutes if they could. These are some fast cars, fast drivers. I want to show you guys a couple of things on the cars before we get started here. Your pole sitter car and your fourth car, these are TA2 Trans Am cars, and the technology on these cars is probably closer to what you would see in a stock car. If you look at the white wheel and tire package, the sidewall, big, chunky. Basically, this is a pro racing spec series designed to control cost, but still go real fast. In between, you've got Tony Ave in what we consider to be a traditional SCCA tube frame GT class car. He's driving the Nissan there. Next to him is a Porsche Cup car. That's a car that was built by Porsche for racing in their Cup series. So in the top three cars, you've got two cars that were built basically for spec racing. You've got another one that really is a full-on GT car. And then just over that little big black car up there, you see Tiger Tom Patton, who's running another kind of GT spec car. Here's what's important about these distinctions. The two cars that are running the TA2 package, those are 2,900 pounds. The Porsche is 4,000 pounds. The GT cars are both in the 2,200 pound range. So when you talk about long runs, needing to keep the car fresh, watch for these smaller cars to be able to make gains.
Thanks, Hayward. That's great insight and one we're going to watch throughout the course of this race. As we mentioned, five-time Pro Solo champion, or five-time Solo Nationals champion, two-time Pro Solo champion, as well as race winner in IMSA and Pirelli World Challenge, Thomas O'Gorman here next to us. Tomo, great to have you with us.
Hey, John. Good morning. It's one of my favorite classes to watch, so very excited as everyone is to get this thing going. And you mentioned that the returning champion, Andrew Aquilani, kind of the general pick to win this class, choosing not to compete this year. He had the entry to come in if he wanted to, and actually we heard he was going to race if it was wet in his T1 Mustang. It's not wet, obviously, so he didn't come out, which basically left the door wide open for everybody else who's been attempting this class for years. It's also brought the field, not that he's always the fastest with Aquilani, but it's brought the field within about 2 seconds over the top 10 cars close to. So it's very, very tight here.
Tomo, take us around this 3.7-mile circuit.
Well, it's a blast in these cars, but the first sector is really all about mechanical grip and good brakes. Deep in the brakes into turn 1, increasing radius corner with a good sweep up to NASCAR bend at turn 3, then the left hook into the lower S's at 4 through 6. Then we're getting up well above 130, 40, 50 miles an hour by the time you get to the top of the climbing S's, those iconic S's in the background. Not quite flat out for these cars, but absolutely flying through South Bend into Oak Tree with a critical acceleration zone. Very, very difficult to get the power down, especially in this Trans Am cars, out of turn 12 onto the longest back straightaway into the roller coaster at turns 13, 14, and 15, down to Hog Pen. A huge drop in elevation with a compression at the bottom that puts you onto the very critical front straight at 17.
That's a lap with 17 really counted corners here on this racetrack, but some of them not so much so for some of these cars. As the field's coming out, you can see the splitter getting the cars on the right side of the grid, and she gives the crossed cross signals. Let's introduce the 16 starters for the GT2 finale here this weekend. Starting on the outside of row 8, the 184 of Paulo Salvatore from San Antonio, Texas in the Houston region in his Ford Mustang. He did not set a time in qualifying, but he's been given permission by the race director to run. Next to him, the 84 of Dan Harding from Dover, Ohio in the Ohio region in his Porsche 996. Didn't make the 115% rule, but he has been given the opportunity as well. One of 4 rookies in the field starts outside of row 7. That's the 10 of Paul Ruth from Parker, Texas in the Texas region in a Pontiac Grand Prix. Next to Paul is the 38 of William Moore from Chagrin Falls, Ohio in the Ohio region in a Camaro. Starting on the outside of row 6, veteran 7-time champion Pete Peterson in the number 98 car out of Lumberton, North Carolina and the Central Carolinas region in his Toyota Celica. He most recently won the GT3 class in 2008. Another rookie inside him, that's the 7 of Al Rowland from North Carolina in the North Carolina region in a Camaro. In his 39th runoff start in the outside of row 5, his car 0, that's Scotty B. White from Auburn, Washington in the Northwest region in his Dodge Viper Comp Coupe. Next to him, another rookie, the 15 of Jack Stanford out of Commerce, Georgia in the Atlanta region in a Chevy SS. In row 4, the 02 of Michael Quattlebaum from Houston, Texas in the Houston region in a Corvette. And another Corvette next to him, the 165 of Jorge Nazario from the San Juan region. Moving forward into row 6, car 81 is Simon Aslan out of Sammamish, Washington in the Northwest region in a Porsche GT3 Cup, and Tiger Tom Patton in the number 50 out of Fairfield Township, Ohio in the Cincinnati region in his Sunbeam Tiger. Tiger Tom won this championship back at Mid-Ohio in 1999. Moving forward into row 2 on the outside, the 36 of Daniel Bender from Northbrook, Illinois in the Chicago region. He won the T4 runoffs in 2014, was also the Kimberly Cup racer. And the 01 of Jared Odrick from Lebanon, Pennsylvania, the Susquehanna Valley region in his Porsche GT3 Cup. The top 2 are Tony Ave. We mentioned him down at the grid. Tony out of Maiden, North Carolina, the Central Carolinas region, a 3-time champion, most recently a year ago in GT3 in his Nissan 350Z. And your pole sitter and the highest placed rookie in the field is Barry Boes. Barry in the number 32 out of Austin, Texas in the Lone Star region in his Ford Mustang. The tire rack pole winner is Barry Boes, making his first runoff start. And Barry competes in the Trans Am 2 series in this very car. In fact, he's had a top 10 finish at, in fact, he was on the podium, I believe, at Detroit earlier this year in that car. And he's currently 12th in the Trans Am 2 points coming into this round here at VIR for the 60th running of the runoffs. Tony Ave and Barry Boes, the tire rack pole sitter, making their way toward the acceleration zone. Barry puts the hammer down. He's going to have maybe a little better acceleration as they come under the green flag, and we are away. Barry Boes to the front, but Tony Ave giving chase right behind, and then ducking up into third spot is the 61, or the 81, excuse me, of Simon Aslan, as he works his way up into that position, I believe. Let's work our way through NASCAR Bend as they come through NASCAR for the first time. A little deeper in the pack, you can see the 7 car of Al Rowland side by side with that Viper of Scotty B. White.
It was a pretty slow start for the number 1 of Jared Odrick, but he was good on the brakes to hold down that 3rd position. Danny Bender with a decent start up underneath the back of that car, and Tiger Tom Patton dropping 1 position behind, as you mentioned, Simon Aslan in all those other Porsches. But Boes still leading over Ave. We saw Ave only do 1 qualifying session the last day of qualifying in that 350Z, so that car has a lot less track time on it this week than the other cars around. Kind of curious to see if Ave is able to get that thing light the wick early, or if maybe he's got even more speed than we've seen.
Tiger Tom Patton trying to hold off Michael Quattlebaum in the 02 as we ride on board now with our 3rd place winner, the 07 of Jared Odrick right now. As you can hear that Porsche winding up through the gears as they head down Madison Avenue for the first time. That's Tony Ave and the yellow Nissan, yellow and red Nissan just in front. And just in front of him, Barry Boes in that pole-sitting TA2 car, the TA2 Mustang, into the roller coaster. This gives you a real idea of just how steeply downhill this turn is.
And look how good that Porsche is on the brakes, closing up massively through the braking zone on the cars ahead. Last year, actually, Danny Bender was in the battle for the lead. He ended up crossing the line first, but had the penalty applied, as you mentioned, ended up third in the year. So that car runs fourth right now, just behind the car we're on board with. We saw that car get faster and faster through the race. It took a little bit of time. Curious if Barry Boes will be in a similar situation as Tony Ave looking up the inside, filling the mirrors. He's not quite there, but he's putting the pressure on.
Yeah, you talked about the weight difference between the Porsche and the TA2 cars, which was really a shock to me. I had no idea that there was that much difference in the weight of these cars. So obviously, it's the Porsche is going to be a little more careful keeping the tires under him, as Daniel Bender and Barry Boes, both in those TA2 cars, working their way through left hook. And then right behind him is Aslan, then Tiger Tom, as he was able to hold off the challenge from behind. Jorge Nazario's moved up into 7th spot. Jack Sanford right behind him. There's the 15 of Sanford, as we see him in the lower S's. Looks like Tony Ave looking racy now as they head for the climbing S's, as he tried to pull alongside our pole sitter, Barry Boes. As the field, Scotty B. White in the Viper, back in 11th position. Ave not able to complete that pass as Boes getting that car up to temperature.
It's a great run through South Bend for Boes. You can see that Z is a little bit better under braking, a little bit lighter of a car. Last year, the dynamic, at least between Aquilani and Bender, was that the TA2 style cars were much faster in a straight line than that production-based Corvette. But now he's racing against that silhouette GT2 frame style car, and I think Ave is really matching him on the straight line speeds as well. So they're down to very, very close details. Taking a quick replay look at that's the car that did not qualify but was allowed to join the race, Paolo Salvatore, cramming his radiator completely full of grass. That car is going to have some temperature issues, I bet.
Yeah, he may have to make a call to the pits to get that grass off the grill work. As we turn our attention back to live action here at the front, Barry Boes in the Mustang with Tony Ave all over his back bumper. Boes in his first runoff start, and boy, talk about starting with a bang, to get the Tire Rack Pole Award on your first go is pretty good stuff. As Boes goes under the starter's flag, works their way down toward turn number 1. Once again, Ave showing him a fender down into turn 1, but don't count out Jared Odrick in that Porsche. He is right there. The Porsche just geographically should have a little better braking performance because of the weight distribution with that rear engine car. So he's got a little bit of an advantage just in that fact, that as he gets hard on the brakes, the weight transfers forward. He's got the spinner, the 165 of Jorge Nazario, who had worked his way up into the top 10, but he loops it there at turn 1 in the Corvette, but is able to get it back underway. Back to our lead quartet right now. That's Daniel Bender right at the tail end of the Porsche. And there's been a swap as we have a new leader. Tony Ave has taken over the point.
Must have done it somewhere between turn 1 and the lower S's, as all that grass from the Salvatore car brought onto the track. There's a little treacherous conditions there. Big tank slap for Danny Bender, trying to find a way anywhere around this Porsche of Jared Odrick. And I'm also seeing quite a bit of grass crammed in the front of Danny Bender's car, which could be a problem. Here's where the pass happened into NASCAR 3. Does Boes make perhaps a mistake, or is it just a really good run? Yeah, it's just a really good run. Oh, and then a hip check out of Barry Boes, but Ave just slung it through turn 3 and got really good closing speed into turn 4, able to outbrake.
Yeah, and he's able to stretch the advantage now just a little bit. Again, Danny Bender's going to have to keep an eye on that temperature gauge as Odrick tries to go down to the inside of Boes, but then overcooks it, and that's going to open the door for Bender to try to get around him and take over the 3rd spot.
And again, that Porsche just so good on the brakes. We saw him close up to the battle in turn 1, and again down there at the roller coaster. He needs to stay a little closer down the straightaways to use it, but he's keeping himself in the battle with it. I'm curious to see if we see any issues out of Danny Bender with that car. Probably not breathing as much as it would like to due to the grass.
Yeah, this race, has just about all the races last year, run in wet conditions. And Danny Bender made a dive bomb move right at the top of the hill there at the roller coaster a year ago and made contact with Andrew Aquilante, who was ahead of him at the time. And Andrew was not pleased, but the stewards agreed that that was maybe a step too far for Danny Bender, and he suffered a 2-grid spot penalty, which took him off the top step on the podium. So we ride along with Odrick now in that 2nd spot.
Got about 600 pounds difference between the lead car and the car we ride on board with of Barry Boes. This is not Scotty B. White. Oh, sorry. That's a different thing for Scotty B. White. But Boes is probably at a disadvantage for the long run. I would have to guess the 2,200-pound 350Z is going to be the best car longevity-wise. We see them all have to kind of catch the car just a little bit through the dirt. And you can see the Z just starting to pull away through those faster corners with better aero and lighter weight. Seems to be really, really strong in those S's.
You saw the graphic on the screen. Scotty B. White, the veteran, in his 39th runoff start, was the winner of the Hawk Breakthrough Performer Award for making up the most positions between Tuesday and Wednesday qualifying. There's an asterisk next to that as we've got another car off. The 10 of Paul Ruth. Looks like that is a pull-off, as he's got a mechanical problem, and he's pulling into a place of safety so as not to bring out a yellow flag. So that's great sportsmanship from him. Paul Ruth was running in 13th prior to that pull-off.
They should have an opportunity to pull that car around a break in the barrier back into paddock, so hopefully this race will stay green. There's the look at Scotty B. White that you were talking about, the Hawk Breakthrough Performer in that beautiful Dodge Viper, running right now just inside the top 10, actually 10th. Right on the money.
Yeah, we had a little qualifying issue in the early morning sessions on Wednesday, and so there weren't many cars in some of the classes that qualified early in the day to make up positions over there. As we got a change for second, as Odrick now moves up in front of Barry Boes. So Barry Boes has lost 2 spots in his many laps. So making his first runoff start, certainly had the great qualifying performance, but right now he's dropped back just a couple spots as we're now on board with Odrick, as Odrick with that very distinctive snarl of the flat 6 Porsche working his way through the lower S's, now up into second spot.
Odrick was the fastest car on the track by nearly a second, about 7.5 tenths over everybody else, including the leader. So that Porsche is quick right now. Danny Bender's still hanging on to the back of this one as well, and so is Tiger Tom Patton. He's right in the background of this shot. If anybody starts racing each other, don't count that car out for a podium finish either.
Yeah, looking at the last lap, Patton was, within shouting distance of the same lap times of the cars in front of him. He's only about 3/10 off the pace of Daniel Bender in front of him on that last lap. So don't count Tom out. That car is going to be a little kinder to its tires than these heavier cars out in front of it. So Tiger Tom's certainly in a position to be a factor for the podium here.
Fastest race sector 1 this time through for Tony Ave. He does seem to be stretching the lead just a little bit, but he doesn't have the straight line speed as the Porsche in the background. That car is hauling, and we know it's good on the brakes too. So Jared Odrick might have the strongest car on the track right now, 5 laps into this race, as he's definitely closed up through the roller coaster and has tended to be getting a very good exit through onto the front straight.
And this is Odrick's only his second runoff start. His best finish was in this race a year ago, where he finished 16th. So Jared Odrick looking to redeem himself here after not having a great run here a year ago in his second runoff start. We ride with him as they come under the starter's stand and make the run down toward the horseshoe at turn number 1. You can see, man, he makes up a lot of ground under the brakes as he's able to carry the braking a lot later than the Nissan in front.
Gets on the throttle a little too early, washes himself wide, so the exit wasn't as strong as it could have been. But again, yeah, so good down the brakes, down the straight into the braking zone. You can see Ave really starting to wheel that car. It's a little bit of 4-wheel slide all the way through NASCAR 3. Good transition of weight. He's pushing hard right now, and it kind of sounds like Odrick is driving a little bit cleaner, just keeping the car hooked up and relying on these strong exits and these good brakes to keep him glued to the back.
Yeah, but it sure looks like Ave's car is a little stronger off the turn, and also a little more nimble through the lower S's. So he's able to stretch the advantage. So these cars have different strengths and weaknesses, obviously. And we can see a little grass on Barry Boes' radiator now, as we saw earlier when Salvatore went off and drug all that grass on the racetrack. All these cars have run through it, and those with the air intake right down there on the front splitter have definitely paid the price to get a little air on little grass clippings on that front radiator. Boes looks like he's got a good run here as he is right on the tail of Odrick as they make the run down Madison Avenue. Let's see if he's got enough to get that pass made, because Odrick's going to be great on the brakes as he pulls out to driver's left. Odrick, though, at terminal velocity, maybe a little bit quicker, and he does make up some ground under the brakes. He's able to pull just a little bit of breathing room as they head down the hill of the roller coaster.
Really interesting. The Porsche has, like you said, has the legs at the end of the straightaway. I think the Trans Am car accelerates a little better, but the Porsche really, really strong at terminal velocity, we'll call it,
Yep.
and then again at the brakes. So it's an easy position for Odrick to defend when you have that combination of strengths. Boes is going to need to get a little bit closer and get that pass done somewhere else, I think, if he doesn't have the braking performance.
As we're coming up on the 11-minute mark into this race with about 28 minutes left, but working race lap number 7, so we're approaching halfway. So while we've got a stable situation here at the front, let's take just a minute to thank the folks that make the racing possible here at the 60th running of the SCCA Runoffs.
A car like this shouldn't exist. Something this big, this luxurious, shouldn't move like a Mazda. And yet, it does.
Oh my God, it sounds epic as well. This car is an SUV with bragging rights.
The all-new 3-row Mazda CX-90.
Okay, so pretend this is your race car. It's on the trailer, and you have an accident. Ouch! At least your truck's insurance will pay for another one? Yeah, not so fast. Standard insurance won't replace your race car, whether it's in the trailer, in the paddock, in the garage, or the repair shop. But at Hagerty, we can protect it for what it's really worth anytime it's off the track. No matter what or where you race, offer less than a set of race tires. Hagerty, let's drive together.
Welcome back to Hagerty Race Days, presented by Mazda, as we're watching the tale of Scotty B. White in that Dodge Viper, working his way up the hill. We already talked about the fact that he won the Hawk Breakthrough Performer Award, but he also took one of the contingency awards for Sunoco 260 Tuesday. And that's kind of an interesting award. The driver whose qualifying time on that day, the last 3 digits come closest to 260, wins that award. And Scotty B's time on Tuesday was a 155.429, which was closest to 260. So he's got a couple of the contingency awards already. Not a bad weekend.
Yeah, it's collecting medals before he even races. That's nice.
Yeah.
But right here, this is the battle for the lead. Tony Ave continuing to lead in that Silhouette GT style Nissan 350Z, being hounded at this point by Jared Odrick, who was the fastest car yet again last time by in that Porsche 911 Cup car. In our little break, I try to do a little research and find out if the car was allowed to run anti-lock brakes, and indeed they are. All the 911 GT3 Cups are allowed to run anti-lock brakes, which is probably why he's so much better on the brakes to the other 2 cars. I know the Trans Am cars do not, and I suspect that the 350 also does not. See him lifting through the uphill S's, keeping everything under control. Things really hairy there at 150 miles an hour.
Exactly right. South Bend, a very, very commitment corner, as my colleague Greg Kramer likes to call it, as they work their way through Oak Tree, just off to your right. Used to be a beautiful oak tree that unfortunately succumbed some years back. There was talk about replanting it. They did, but the son of Oak Tree is on the outside of the course now rather than on the inside. Once again, Boes, great acceleration. That big V8 really gives him the run coming off of that turn. But the Porsche seems to have the good top end, and then with those anti-lock brakes, able to brake a little bit deeper into the roller coaster there at the end of Madison Avenue.
You pointed out that Odrick seems to struggle on corner exit. That's not necessarily something the Porsche should struggle at, but I think he's just not quite getting the car pointed to the exit of the corner early enough, and seems to be struggling with the runs onto the straightaway just by a little bit, and that's really what's, in my opinion, keeping him away from Tony Ave, just out of reach of being able to outbrake that 350Z. Kind of a stable gap between these top 3, but they've dumped Danny Bender at some point. We have to wonder if that car, again, either temperature issues or potentially just doesn't quite have the pace.
Yeah, that may open the door for Tom Patton to get up into that 4th spot. On the last lap, he was about 6 seconds behind, 5.3 basically at the line. So we'll see how that shakes as we got to move a little deeper in the pack as the 81 car of Simon Aslan working his way around the 02 of Michael Quattlebaum, as that's the battle for 6th position, and Aslan taking over that spot in another of the Porsches, the GT3 Porsches, as he's working his way into the left hook. Quattlebaum in the Corvette.
Quattlebaum had been down a couple of positions from this position a little while back, so I think that Corvette is on a little bit of a charge. last time through, running a couple seconds off the pace of our leaders. But here's another issue for Jorge Nazario. Loses a fender liner out of that production-based C7 Corvette. So there may be some debris on the track that's not really going to affect the car itself too much.
Yeah, that looked like right down at Hogpen, as we got another battle just a little deeper in the back. Again, we talked about Jorge Nazario in that 165, and that's Al Rowland right in front of him in the number 7 Camaro. As Nazario, having picked off Jack Sanford a lap ago, now looking to pick up another spot, and he gets it done. So Nazario on a bit of a charge here, because that's going to put him up into 8th spot if he can hang on to that position.
He's been racing a C5 Corvette in GT2 for a number of years, but upgrading to the C7 out of the Phoenix Performance stable, or at least built and prepped by Phoenix Performance. Remember, this driver was up towards the top 5, but had that self-spin down in turn 1, as now the power of Al Rowland's Camaro comes back. But we'll cut back to the beginning, and it looks like Odrick is pushing, starting to get a little bit racier. He's really moving around in the mirrors, trying to get the attention of Tony Ave, and he's closed up. This is as close as he's been, and it's a really good exit this time through as the car floats on power exiting turn 1.
Yeah, Odrick continues to hold the fastest lap of the race. So in total lap time, that Porsche is the quickest car out here, but it's so great to see these 3 very different cars and how they have strengths and weaknesses at various different points on the racetrack. As we ride now with Jared Odrick, as he works his way through the lower S's called the Snake, comes up under the bridge toward the climbing S's.
And that difference in style prep is really what has made GT2 become one of those fascinating classes to watch. Not only is there so many variety, but the parity is actually really strong.
Yeah.
So as you can see, we have one of each different style car in the top 3, racing very fairly, racing very closely. But Odrick just struggles in that first sector, and all the way through the uphill S's seems to be a little bit weaker. Ave just really cracked off a good sector that time through, and now all of a sudden Odrick, who was racing for the lead, is now defending for third, or from behind.
Yeah, exactly right. As Bender continues to drop off the back, his last lap, Danny Bender's last lap was a 154.4. That's about a second and a half off his best lap of the race. So again, it's just conjecture on our part that he might be having a problem with overheating. As Barry Boes, once again, able to get right on the back of Odrick's Porsche once again. It's just interesting. Odrick just seems to have a good lap and then a not so good lap. It's just interesting how the ebb and flow of this race for him. Boes now putting on the pressure from behind, and Ave kind of getting away up at the front. Definitely
not as consistent as our leader, Ave, who set his own personal best sector 2, which is where the S's are, and South Bend. This lap, he's over a second faster than Jared Odrick that time across the line, when Odrick had just reset the fast lap of the race the lap before. Oh no, we're seeing smoke out of the back of Tony Ave's car. That is not good. As Tony Ave showing a little puff of smoke, it's coming out of the exhaust pipe. Yep, this is going to be game over for Tony Ave, I'm almost positive, as that Nissan is not happy. He's still at speed, but he's dropping back quickly. You're right. The question is, it seems to be getting worse rapidly, which is usually a very bad sign. Now it's getting much, much worse. He drops off points by, and he's going to pull over. Oh, no, heartbreak for Tony Ave on lap 11 of 15 with engine issues. Started this race in second spot on the front row, and has led for much of it after taking that lead. And he's just nursing the car around, going to try to get it around to the pit lane. But he's being gentlemanly about it, trying to stay off the racing line. So if that car is sending any fluid out the exhaust pipe, that he doesn't put anybody else at a disadvantage and possibly bring out a full course yellow. So Danny Bender now moves up into third spot. As Ave's car really smoking under acceleration. So yeah, that problem obviously is terminal. Yeah, and a very experienced driver, of course, he would know the difference between a mechanical issue that is or is not dropping fluid. He seems to be confident that it's not, and he's doing a very good job of disappearing, not affecting the race. No one else has given us any indication that there's anything on the surface. They would make that pretty obvious pretty quick. Going into the grass, but that's going to promote Jared Odrick to the lead, and this is now the battle for the lead. Barry Boes must have a little bit extra inspiration now, knowing that this is going to be for the gold instead of the silver if he can get to the back of Jared Odrick, but we know it's not really ideal for him to do it on the back straight. He's got to find another way to do it, and I think it's going to be in sector 1. If he can get to the lead before the uphill S's, that's the best case scenario. A little lockup under braking and deceleration is going to run a little bit wide, but collects it up. He's going to lose at least a second or more to the back of the Porsche.
Yeah, I think he got sucked in a little bit too deep, as Odrick can really go deep on the brakes with those anti-lock brakes. And I think Boes just got sucked a little bit too deep into the braking zone there for turn number 1. But he'll have to climb the mountain one more time. Odrick, though, coming into the portion of the racetrack where he's not been particularly strong. And so we'll see if Boes is able to work his way through the lower S's and the climbing S's and get right back on his back bumper by the time they get to Oak Tree. Tom Patton now up into 4th spot with the problems for Tony Ave, who has dropped out of the lead. There's Tiger Tom in that Sunbeam Tiger. He's raced that for as long as I've been calling runoffs, and that has been a long time, ladies and gentlemen. So Tiger Tom, that's hence the name, in that very characteristic old school Sunbeam Tiger. And he has been a front runner his entire runoffs career, taking the win, as we said, back in '99. But this battle for the lead is a dandy. Barry Boes right on his back bumper, and Tomo, you called it. This is where he needs to pull the trigger if he can.
It's where he's always closest, but it's the part of the track that's weakest for him. If he could maybe try to get Jared in the brakes a little bit too deep, but we're seeing a very similar scenario to last year's race, where we have a car that's a little bit better into the roller coaster, leading the race, and a Trans Am car, heavy attack underneath the back bumper of that lead car, but not able to actually do anything with it due to the brakes on the back straight. But this is a great position. He got a killer run off of the hog pen corner and is going to try to get a little bit closer than last time. We know the brakes aren't the best, but maybe he can get Jared in there a little bit deep and get a good run off this corner. Indeed, that's just exactly what happens. Jared misses the apex completely. Boes also with a little wiggle at the apex, dealing with tire wear at this point in the Trans Am car. Look, he can't even get the power down to stay and capitalize on that mistake.
We're working race lap number 13, so we're in the closing stages here. These are 15-lap races. That last run to the flag also is a pretty good indication that Boes, if he gets a good run off hog pen, he might be able to draft by the time they get to the stripe. So maybe a dress rehearsal for the final lap here as they're working their way through the lower S's. This is definitely a two-way battle at the front, as they have dropped Danny Bender to the tune of almost 8 seconds.
Sector 2 is Barry Boes' sector. He's actually got the race best sector time through this section of track. Watch him float the speed through South Bend and close up on the back bumper right off to the edge of the track, but keeps it on. And this is where he's always been the best to get to the back bumper of the Porsche. But again, he can't really do anything with it by the time it materializes into a run down the back straight.
You can hear the engine spin up as he gets on the throttle coming off of Oak Tree. As you said, I think the tires may be getting a little tired, and he's working with not as much grip as he had earlier in the race. But the car just jumps off that turn, and now they come up into the roller coaster, but a little not as close as he was a lap ago. But if my calculations are correct, we are coming to the white flag in a lap or two, and that will be his last opportunity to find a way to get around the Porsche, as Odrick, in only his second runoff start, looking for his first gold medal.
Tell you, Boes is driving beautifully. The back of that car is definitely not as good as it was at the beginning of the race. The car is just kind of neutral steer through every apex, struggling to get power down, but he's controlling it beautifully. Must have definitely a lot of experience with how that car is driving. But Odrick controlling this race very, very well. Has only made one little mistake that we saw miss the apex, and Boes was also struggling with the same thing. Couldn't do anything with it last lap through. He fixes it for this time and looks to be very, very controlled in the Porsche, if not a little conservative, but that's okay. He doesn't need to take any big risks right now because he's got the strongest car into the most critical corner on the track.
Exactly right. The two places where he is definitely the strongest is at the end of the two straightaways, basically. At the end of Madison Avenue, coming into the roller coaster, and then into turn number 1 on the front straight. But Boes, once again, is just so good through the lower S's and the climbing S's as well. So he is right back on the bumper, putting the strengths of that Trans Am 2 car to good work as they're through South Bend. He is right on the bumper. In fact, a little contact, perhaps.
He couldn't decide what to do with it. He had the run, and he kind of expected Jared to go to the normal driving line over on the left, but Jared's been defending really nicely. He moved just to the right position into the S's and stayed in just the right position on the exit of the S's. And I think it caught Boes out by just a little bit, expecting to have a gap open up. That it just didn't open up.
They've got a slower car in front of them, which may be a factor here on this final lap as we're coming to the white flag this time by working race lap number 14. Once again, this time Odrick getting a little better run down the straightaway. Boes not able to get right on his tail, and as luck would have it, it's another Porsche in front that's about to go a lap down. That's Dan Harding. But Harding stays on his racing line. And we are coming to the white flag with this lead battle. White flag is in the air. One more lap to go for Jared Odrick. In only his second runoffs appearance, and right behind him, a man in his first runoffs appearance, and they are duking for the gold medal in GT-2. That's great to see. We need new blood in SCCA road racing, and this is great to see these two drivers in their inaugural, or almost inaugural performances, really battling for the lead here.
This could be interesting. Boes had a little bit more of a gap than normal coming through this first sector, and that might actually mean he can get a better run up to the back of Odrick. Look how much stronger he is as he's already there, loses the back end just a little bit. We've talked about he's losing that rear grip. Finally, it bites him, and this is where he needed to be closing in and making the attack. I think the opportunity may have just been burned.
Yeah, because this is really the portion of the racetrack where he has been strongest. But if the tail end is getting a little too happy for him, coming into South Bend, hard on the accelerator as he comes up, setting up for the double apex here at Oak Tree. He's right there once again, but you can hear that car getting sideways. You can hear the tire squeal as he is just not able to get the power down as he would like. But last chance opportunity coming now as we're on the final lap. Jared Odrick taking over the lead after the problems for Tony Ave, as he dives down the hill at the roller coaster, and Barry Boes just not close enough.
I think the Pirellis on the back of that car, one lap short on life. They seem to be just gone. That car wants to be backwards on every corner entry, and it's just one lap too short for those tires.
Absolutely. Jared Odrick, second time of asking, on his way to the checkered flag, and it's going to be a gold medal for Jared Odrick in his second runoff start. Barry Boes in his first runoff start has the silver medal. And congratulations to those two. Great race between them. Here comes Danny Bender, who crossed the line in the front a year ago. But again, that car fading a bit at the end. It does make me wonder if he had to keep one eye on the temperature gauge with that blocked radiator. But tip of the hat to Tiger Tom Patton, who comes across the line in fourth. There's the number 7 of Al Rowland in his Camaro, running in the 7th position, as it turns out, as he comes to the line. Simon Aslan taking 5th place honors. Michael Quattlebaum in the 0-2 comes home in 6th. Al Rowland in the 7th spot. There's a good shot of Tom Patton in that Sunbeam Tiger, your 4th place finisher, just off the podium out of Fairfield Township, Ohio. Kind of in your neck of the woods, Tomo.
Yeah, the number 7 we were taking a look at might be a good contender for that Sunoco Hard Charger, starting 11th and finishing 7th in the number 7.
Indeed, the Sunoco Hard Charger award given to the driver who makes up the most positions from start to finish, as the 15 car coming across the line, Jack Stanford in the number 15. He had a kind of an eventful start to the race, dropping back outside of the top 10, but working his way back up into a 10th place finish.
Beautiful sound out of that number 38 from William Moore in the Hawk Performance Camaro. A little further back, gets just outside of the top 10, finishing 11th in that car.
Dan Harding, the first car a lap down in that Porsche. We saw him go a lap down just as the leaders overtook him coming to the white flag. But Jared Odrick getting the job done. He had plenty of pressure throughout the course of this race, taking the lead when Ave had his problems on lap number 11, and never relinquished it, even though Barry Boes piled all the pressure he could to try to take that over, but not to be, as Jared Odrick takes his first gold medal in his second runoff start. Danny Bender in the other TA2 car coming down the hill on the cool down lap. As there's your top 10. Jared Odrick, your winner. Barry Boes in second. Margin of victory, just about 0.3 of a second. Daniel Bender finishing in third spot. Tom Patton in fourth. Simon Aslan in fifth spot in the 81. Michael Quattlebaum takes sixth place honors. Al Rowland in seventh. Jorge Nazario, after an eventful run, recovers for an eighth place finish. Scotty B. White finishing ninth. And Jack Sanford rounding out the top 10. Scotty B in his 39th runoff start in the top 10 once again. He's had 24 top 10 finishes over his runoffs career. Make that 25 this year with that ninth place finish. And it sounds like we are heading down to the pit lane. Hayward Wagner has got our winner. Hayward?
Yeah, we're getting everybody kind of situated down here, getting the balaclava off for Jared. Taking a moment to kind of collect himself here. Got the medal coming in. Jared, obviously you have gotten to compete at some pretty high levels in your life. What makes this so emotional for you?
I care. I care. It's just cool. It's really cool. This fucking guy. Sorry. It's cool.
You've made a career out of playing defense. What was it like to defend those last couple of laps for a national championship?
I'll tell you what, Barry Boes is like the coolest fucking guy. I swear to God, when I saw him get out of his car in Sebring, and he had like a hot chick, and he was like sculpted, he's like 3% body fat, his fucking profile pictures with his sunglasses on. I'm like, how the fuck am I gonna beat this cool ass guy? And so, yeah, that was cool. Yeah, I mean, maybe he'll give me some cool points, I don't know.
An incredible drive, a national championship. You get to do one more lap, a victory lap here at the Runoffs. Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you.
All right, second place, Barry. Started out front, came in second. How was the race for you?
You know, it was a really challenging race. I think when you watch these things, and you watch a GT-2 class especially, sometimes there's a couple of cars on pace, there's a lot of cars off. Right? We had 3 or 4 cars that, really probably 4 cars that could have won the race. Some excellent driving, and I mean, it was way more fun than I thought it might be coming into it. I'm pleased as punch. You know, and although I would like to have won it, you know, I'm pretty proud with second place.
Well, congratulations on the podium. Always good to see a happy second place finisher. You, sir, had a practically boring race compared to last year. How'd this feel?
The car made it a little bit exciting. It was sort of a handful all week. You know, compared to last year, again, I had such a fun race with Andrew that race. I was really hoping to fight for a win this week. Just couldn't get the car to quite work the way we wanted it to. Coming out of corners, I couldn't get the power down to stick with these guys. It was all right on the brakes. The mid-corner was all right, but just coming out, it was brutal. But in the end, you know, again, it's still fun to be on the podium at the runoffs. I'm super happy for Jared. He's an awesome dude. And to see him here, I'm sure he is. If he's not hooked now, he is. I think he's probably a lifer at this point. So I look forward to seeing him again. But just, you know, big thanks to Bravo Trailers, big thanks to SCCA, all the workers, everybody that makes this possible for us. Matt Carson Racing and the rest of the crew is awesome. How with these TA2 chassis are always great. You know, Hoosier, thank you for putting this all on. Pirelli, thanks for the good tires that we use in TA2. But, you know, next year.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
You know, we say it all the time, but you can see from Jared Odrick's reaction, you know, this means a lot to these guys. I mean, this is not just another race. Winning the runoffs is a big deal. You can see the start here as Barry Boes from the pole takes the lead. Tony Ave tries several times to make the move there into turn 1, but there's Odrick, the eventual winner, slotting into that third spot. Danny Bender right behind him as the field's still bunched up. Barry Boes taking over the lead in the early stages. Tony Ave right on his back bumper. Here's the move where Ave gave him a little bit of a hip check as they come into the left hook. taken over the lead for that time, and it certainly looked like this was going to be Tony Ave's race to lose at this point, as he was able to pull away. But then Jorge Nazario has had an eventful day, as he had an off-course excursion early in the race, but then smoke out of the back of Tony Ave's car spelled the death knell for that effort. And then here we go in the closing stages, both these guys struggling for grip. Jared Odrick goes a little wide at turn 1 on the penultimate lap, but had just enough to hold off the pole sitter, Barry Boes, as Boes gets tail happy, as he said, you know, the car just didn't have quite enough staying power to stay with the leader. But Jared Odrick taking his victory lap as he takes his first gold medal on second time of asking. It's lunch break for us here, and we're going to pass it away to Brian Belansky, Greg Grinsberg, and Laura Bralier for the Inside the SCCA halftime show. So on behalf of Haywood Wagner, Tom O'Gorman, I'm John Phippen. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you all down the road.
My customer experience with Mazda has been absolutely fantastic.
I'm probably not the richest person out here, and they're extremely reasonably priced, and you can buy parts easily, and it's a class that fits both what I want from a racing standpoint and what I can afford.
We got into Mazdas largely just because it's a fantastic platform, and Mazda Motorsports has some of the best support for the grassroots racer in parts and technical advice and everything else, so they make it easy for us to run these cars.